Hey guys, I'm John Setzler. Welcome back to the Kamado Joe cooking channel. Today we're going to try something that I've never tried before, so it's going to be a learning experience for both of us. We're going to make some Char Siu pork. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do for our Char Siu pork is we're going to make our marinade. And I'm going to go over these ingredients we're using here first. And I will give you the quantities as we go. I've got about 2 tablespoons of honey. I've got 2 cubes of what's called red bean curd, along with maybe 2 teaspoons of the sauce that comes in that jar. I've got 4 slices of coarsely chopped ginger. I've got 2 cloves of coarsely chopped garlic. I've got 2 tablespoons of hoisin sauce. I've got 2 teaspoons of a rice wine. This is called Shaoxing. I've got 1 teaspoon of Chinese allspice and 1 tablespoon of paprika. So I'm going to put all that in a mixing bowl here and we're going to whisk it together. Once I get all that in my mixing bowl, I'm just going to kind of punch it up and get it mixed and get those squares of that bean curd broken up also. Okay, the next thing we have here is I have a half of a pork loin, and you got a couple of meat options you can use here. You can use pork loin, you can use pork tenderloin, or you can use Boston butt. And something about the size of a pork tenderloin works pretty good, but I'm just going to take this pork loin and we're going to cut it in half, and that's going to work out perfectly. So we've got 2 pieces that are about that big, and we're going to put this in a big Ziploc bag with our marinade. Okay, I've got those in the bag, so I'm going to scrape my marinade out into this bag, and then I'm just going to get down in there with my hand and we're going to work that in. We're going to make sure we get all the surfaces of that meat covered up with that marinade, and we're going to marinate overnight. So I'm going to seal this back up. I'm going to put it in the refrigerator and go at least 12 hours on this and up to 24. Okay guys, our marinade is done, so the next thing we're going to do is put together a glaze. And I'm going to start with another cube of that red bean curd and a little bit of that sauce that comes in the jar. Then we're going to add 1/4 cup of soy sauce, 1/4 cup of hoisin sauce, 1/4 cup of honey, and then 1 tablespoon of our rice cooking wine. This is that Shaoxing wine, and that's what that looks like. If you find that in the Asian store, that's great. 1/4 teaspoon of Chinese 5-spice and 1 clove of finely minced garlic. And I'm going to turn that over medium heat, and we're going to mix this up and bring it to a simmer. And after this comes up to a simmer, you're going to want to stir it a little bit and let it thicken up some for just a few minutes. And then you can take this off and set it aside and let it cool. You want this to be a fairly, not too terribly thick, but not too terribly thin. You kind of want it to be able to coat a spoon, because we're going to use it to glaze that pork after we sear it on the grill. Okay guys, I've got a nice hot fire built in the firebox of my Kamado Joe, and I've got the grates down on the low position. So we're just going to put these pieces of pork on and sear them. We're going to get seared all the way around, so I'm just going to keep the lid open and kind of turn these as we go. Okay, I'm going to give these guys a little turn here, and we're just going to keep them turning until we get them seared on all sides. Now that I've got that seared up on the outside, I'm going to pull it off the grill momentarily, and we're going to reconfigure here just a little bit. I'm going to put a heat deflector on this half, and then we're going to take this piece of grill and move it up above the heat deflector. And we're going to finish these pork pieces over indirect heat until I get an internal temperature up about 140 degrees or so is what I'm looking for to finish this meat. And now that I've got that over here over the indirect heat, we're going to baste it with that glaze we just made. And I'm going to let that cook for a little bit. I'm going to come back and flip them, and we're going to baste again. Okay, I'm going to move these around a little bit, put the one that's up front to the back, and I'm just going to roll those over, and we're going to put a little baste on the back sides of these. Man, this stuff smells amazing. I can't wait to get into this. And we're just going to keep letting these cook. Like I said, we're shooting for about 140 degrees internal. Okay guys, these are ready. I'm going to take these off. We're going to let them rest for about 10 or 15 minutes before we slice. Okay guys, I've let this rest and I've taken the liberty of slicing some of this, and this stuff is perfect. 140 degrees is a fantastic temperature for you to pull off pork loin, pork tenderloin. That's perfectly cooked and it's just wonderfully juicy. So I'm going to serve this for dinner tonight in some ramen, or maybe with some rice. So give this a try. Let me know what you think. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Kamado Joe. Follow us on Twitter @Kamado Joe. And until next time, this is John Setzler with the Kamado Joe Cooking Channel.